Good morning, everyone. Today is February 1st, and welcome to Saratoga Big Basin Toastmasters. I encourage you to turn on your cameras if you're online, and we have a good attendance here in the room. Great to have you folks here. And let me get started with introducing our Toastmaster, the esteemed Soumya.
Thank you, Priya, for that very nice introduction. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us here. And how do you see the participants on here? I think there's 4.
Yeah,
4? Okay.
you see.
Okay. All right. So let's get started. The theme for today's meeting is self-care. But before I get it to the theme, I want to introduce Gang, who's you're still a guest, right?
Yes, not
a member yet. So why don't you come up and say hello to everyone?
Yep. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name's Gang. I came here last 2 times, but I have not finished my membership. I will do. And nice to see you guys again. And yeah, thank you. Happy Saturday. Yep.
Welcome again, gang.
See you in person, Gang. Okay, so today's theme, like I said, is self-care. When was the last time you spent time doing something you really love doing? How did it make you feel? Self-care is very important. What is self-care? It is basically taking care of ourselves. Why is it important? Because if you take care of yourself, you'll be a happier person. And when you're a happier person, you are more present in what you do. You're a nicer person. You interact better with others. In our culture, sometimes we put ourselves last and put others first. But when we do that, it takes a toll on us. And unless we take some time to refresh and recharge, we'll find that we're not the best that we can be. So I encourage all of you to spend some time for yourself, doing something that you enjoy doing. We'll explore this theme more in table topics, but let's get started with today's meeting. Okay, let's see, our counter is Alan. Alan, can you introduce your role?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to be the R counter today. I'm going to be counting most of the filler words used during the meeting, in the speeches and the table topics. And I will give you a report at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Alan. We don't have a grammarian. Does anyone want to take on the role? If not, no worries. I'm going to give a word of the day. I'm going to use nurture. Let's try to use nurture when we speak today. Our timer is Priya. Priya, can you introduce your role?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. As the timer, I'll keep track of the speakers as well as the table topics participants, as well as the evaluators' speech timings. The speakers' timing, I'll show the green light at 5, the yellow light at 6, and then the red light at 7. After red, make sure to wrap up your speech in 30 seconds. You get 30 seconds grace period before and after. So if your speech is 5 to 7 minutes, you're expected to speak at least 4.5 minutes and wrap up by 7.5 minutes. For table topics, please speak until you see the green light in my background, or at least 1 minute. At 1.5, you see the yellow, and red at 2 minutes. And for evaluators, it's green light at 2 minutes, and 2.5 is yellow, and green and red at 3 minutes. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Priya, for doing multiple roles today. She's speaker and timer. We need a vote counter. Amitabh, can you be the vote counter? Great, thanks. And our humorist today is Gang. Gang, are you ready to tell us a joke?
I'll try my best.
Okay,
Yeah.
come on. Over there.
Oh, already?
No, speak over. Yeah. Over there.
Okay.
Over.
Okay. First time to taking a role, please bear with me. Self-care. I craft a story. So there is a therapist who trying to find a common reason for people's mental and health issue. There is one day, there's a client who had long-time issues, came to the therapist, and therapist told them, I think I found the reason for your issues. The client was puzzled. How come? I have been here for years. And the therapist said, okay, I actually find a reason because I find a common reason across other clients. So there's one type of things that we have a lot for other people, for things outside of us, like our friends, our family, like the NBA games last night, the deals we were trying to find for the Black Fridays. But we missed one thing. That thing is the root cause. And the client was puzzled. What do you mean? Well, what is missed? What do you mean? I have a lot of these things for myself. Why just one thing I missed is the root cause? And then the therapist brought a box labeled lost and found. And he asked the client to reach into the box, and the client reached into and find a paper and fold it, and they opened it. It says self-care. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Apt for today's meeting. Who's the Toastmasters? Is that international? Who's that?
That's the.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
okay. So Padma is not here.
No.
Okay, our first speaker today is Thomas, but his evaluator Padma was planning to come, but she's not. Oh, you're evaluating?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were speaker too, Priya.
No.
Okay.
I'm speaking.
Okay, so who do you want to evaluate?
It
Anita?
doesn't matter. I thought I was Thomas the first. one.
Yeah, go.
Okay.
I'm happy to evaluate both.
Okay, great. So Anita is going to be evaluating Thomas's speech. I'll let her introduce the speech.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and the to be becoming Toastmaster gone. Today I'll be introducing Thomas for a speech, level 3 speech on strategic relationship. And he knows that the best strategic relationship you can have is with yourself before you have with others. So he's going to show us how to nurture and improve our quality of sleep.
Right, have a question to start with. How many have trouble sleeping when they are preparing a speech? Oh my gosh, that's everybody. So that's definitely me. Also, so about 30% of people in the US have trouble sleeping at any one time, and about 30% of that 30% have chronic trouble sleeping. So greetings, Toastmasters and guests. With the theme of self-care, I am spending the next several minutes talking about improving your sleep. So spoiler alert, this is a real sleeper speech. Okay, so I was happy to find 2 talks on the Calm app about sleep. One is by Matthew Walker. He's a PhD in brain and sleep science, and one is by Steve Orma, a psychologist specializing in sleep. they both got interested in studying sleep because they both have their own difficulties with sleeping. And they both give practical advice on quality versus quantity of sleep, and also the kind of the mind-body connection and kind of nurturing yourself. And both discuss that that our bodies are made to sleep naturally and easily, but life stresses all get in the way and kind of mess that up. So I'm going to talk about 3 practical topics that both Walker and Orma discuss. First, number 1, reduce stress. So exercise reduces stress and mental stress, and you want to do it regularly. And if you want to train for a marathon on 7 continents, like one of our members does, then more power to you. But the main thing is to do it consistently every day. And the second thing, so the second part of the first part is you want to establish a nightly routine to kind of ward off stress. And this creates a scaffold for the brain to kind of work with to get ready for sleep. So give time to wind down naturally. And when I was younger and more foolish, I used to think that sleep was like a switch. And you finish your work and you could just go to sleep after that. Of course, that's wrong. And Dr. Walker kind of explains that it's more like a plane landing. The pilots have to get things going. They have to get the landing gear down. So you have to kind of think about it. And it's like a process. So you want to have your routine to kind of get that going. And one of the things that I found as part of my process is to do guided meditation. And if done regularly, can also help you. It's like a bonus. You can get kind of a better understanding of life also. The Calm app, CALM, has 10-minute guided meditation and mindfulness exercises, which I found really easy because they're really short. All right, number 2, optimize sleep surroundings. So use your bed mostly for sleep to create those positive associations. You want to limit noise and light and have good temperature control and nice bedding. And, basically make your room and your bed a good place to sleep. So you associate good things with it. All right, number 3, if you already have insomnia. So the first thing is don't go to bed if you aren't sleepy. Second thing is if you've been in bed for 20 to 30 minutes and you're not feeling it, you're not feeling sleepy at all, you don't want your brain to start thinking, oh, bed is where I don't sleep. You want to think the opposite. So you want to get out of bed and do something kind of boring or sleep inducing for about 30 minutes. And so I listen to sleep stories in dim light, and I also walk around the couch. So those are the 3 things. And to wrap up, I have a quote, and it's kind of like more on the combining like the body and the mind, because that's what sleep is about. So fitness and mindfulness go hand in hand. Exercise gives us health of the body. Meditation gives us health of the mind, and each strengthen each other. And that's by Tamara Levitt, who's also from Calm. So consider Orma and Walker's suggestions and choose what works to improve your sleep quality, and use the extra time you get, the insights you get from sleeping well to do what you need to do, meet your goals, meet new people, relate to them better, do goals for work. And most of all, remember to use those new insights and that quality time to write more Toastmasters speeches. All right, time to hit the pillow, and back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Timer, can you give us a minute to send feedback to Thomas? Thank you, Priya. Our next speaker is Priya. Priya is speaking from the pathways called Effective Coaching, and she's giving a level 3 speech. The title of her speech is Building Consensus in a Meeting. Building Consensus in a Meeting. And Padma has arrived. Oh. Actually, I'm going to let Padma be the evaluator for this speech if she's joining. Let's see. Give her a minute.
Soumya, if you don't mind, I'll just observe today. I'm still in a lot of pain.
Okay, no worries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask everybody who is in the audience to give one tip to our evaluator Priya. So we are all going to evaluate Priya since our evaluator for Priya is absent. So I want each of you will go round robin and everybody will give her one tip, either that she did well or that she can improve on. Let's try it out this time. First, let's welcome Priya.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Now, tell me, how many of you have been in a meeting where it's complete chaos? Oh, nice. Somebody's being honest. I have been in several such situations. If you work in the tech area, you know that meetings usually turn into chaos if it's not properly guided with an agenda. I'm going to tell you some tips to build a consensus in a meeting. First of all, conducting the meeting itself is hard. Building consensus is even harder. The quality of a good leader is not measured by how quickly the consensus is built, but by how well you mold people towards consensus. That's what Martin Luther King said. That an effective leader molds his teammates towards consensus. Now, why did I ask you about meetings? We know that meetings can be misdirected, redirected, taken through a forest, brought back to the point, and so on. First of all, let's think about what is consensus. I'll define it. Consensus is about conducting a certain activity in a group setting without any objections. Meaning, there can be individuals in a team setting who don't agree to a particular decision, but they do not obstruct it. So disagree and commit is a consensus model. When I heard of disagree and commit, I thought to myself, how can you disagree and commit to it? because you have to genuinely disagree if you disagree. But when I went ahead and read about the Amazon principles, it says disagree and commit is not to present any obstacles towards conducting a certain action. That makes sense. Now let's look at how consensus is different from unanimity. Unanimous situation or unanimous decision is taken when all the parties agree in unison that this should be the decision. Consensus differs from it in the sense that if there are 10 people in the room and 5 of them disagree, but they do not pose obstacles towards that decision. So the necessity of a majority is not necessary in consensus, but it's a decision taken in order to make progress in a given difficult situation. The consensus also applies to democracy. When we vote, that's a majority consensus, meaning if there is 60% or more than 50% people vote towards a certain party, that party gets elected. So that is majority consensus. There are people who disagree, and there are people who do not like a particular leader, but they still cannot pose any obstacles towards that leader's appointment and other actions that the leader takes. But there are countries in the world which do not follow the majority consensus. They go with what is the right action that is to be taken. Switzerland is one such example. Switzerland follows consensus democracy. Read about it. They carry out actions based on what's the right action to be conducted. It is essential to nurture correct feelings towards a certain decision. So in a meeting, if it is chaotic, there are different methods to reach consensus. Now I'll talk about the methods. First of all, listen to all the point of view. So if you have a whiteboard, put your points, put everybody's opinions, and jot down all the solutions, possible solutions. Then conduct voting. Ask people, how many of you think that this is the number one problem? Find out which is the maximum voted problem area. And try to find a solution to the most voted problem area. Again, in the solutions, there can be 3 different solutions for the most difficult problem area. Again, vote on that. That is step number 2. Step number 3, make a note of who all agreed to the single decision that needs to be taken. And make sure that the next time such a problem occurs, you go with another option, not the one that was already tried and tested. And keep a log of, or keep track of all the activities that you do in the process. So that is one way of achieving consensus. There is also the concept of multi-voting, where people vote on 3 different options and rate their own preference of 1, 2, 3. And then you pick the winner or the winning solution from the one that got the most weightage or the most number of votes. So that is multi-voting. I know in the last election, there was weighted voting and multi-voting for some of the props. And that was a huge discussion. If you are involved in understanding the props, you would know what I mean by weighted voting and multi-voting. So that's another way of reaching consensus. I urge you to go and implement some of the techniques that I mentioned here in your next meeting when there is chaos and when there are people waiting to get on each other's necks. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Priya. It's very appropriate that you picked this topic. You know a lot about building consensus, both at meetings and also in the political arena. I also love that both our speakers use the word of the day, nurture. So let's try to keep that going with table topics. But let's take a minute to jot down any comments that we have for Priya. counting for me?
Yeah, and it's obviously. Yeah.
So I don't know, Alan and Amitabh, did you hear that? Just send your notes or your evaluation to Priya in my name,
In the chat.
in chat. Okay, great. So the prepared speeches are done. Let's do table topics. To do that, I want to welcome Amitabh, our table topics master.
Thanks, Soumya. Good morning, everyone. I am your table topics masters for the day, and let's try to use the word of the day, nurture, as much as possible in our responses. So my first question is, what does self-care mean to you, and how do you practice it? Anyone? Okay, it looks like Alan, you have unmuted yourself, so yes, you want to go? Okay.
Okay,
David.
sure. So recently I've been like focusing a lot on my actually on my focus. As you know, like recently, lately there's a lot of things talked about on this Instagram Reels and then TikTok. People keep scrolling, and yet you have this shortened attention span, and you're not able to focus properly. So, what I've been doing for myself is I've been trying to avoid looking at short reels and trying to read more. So I look at news articles and try to actually read the articles to get the same kind of information instead of watching these short reels. So this is how I've been helping myself with self-care, focusing on myself.
Perfect. Thanks, Alan. Thanks for the tip as well.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one. So, like Alan mentioned, he has picked up something recently, which is attributing in helping and nurturing his mental health. So, but what is one self-care habit that you wish that you would have started much earlier?
So the topic is like which things I wish or we wish we could have been done earlier.
Anything that you do for self-care now, or you even intend to do for self-care now, you wish you would have started earlier.
Got it. So not about for me, for this question, it's not about like the exact self-care things I do to myself. It's more about the understanding of, it's more about the true understanding of what self-care is. So self-care is like nurturing ourselves, our mind, our interests, our hobbies. It's around ourselves. And in my culture, so this is, there was a misconcept that self-care is like caring for yourself, is not caring for others. So you should put caring for other things in the front. So that is the misunderstanding I start to learn when I get exposed to other cultures, when I want to get more life experience. So that's something I wish I could identify earlier, that self-care is not secondary. So it's not secondary thing. It's actually will help what I previously think is always the first, how I done those other things more efficiently. So that's the misunderstanding I wish I could have uncovered for myself earlier. Thank you.
Perfect. That's a great point, Gang, actually, and that's kind of ties back to my next question. So, how do we? I'm pretty sure most of the people or most of us like have this contradiction in our minds that okay, is self-care equal to being selfish? So how do we get past such guilt and make sure that there is a clear boundary between what you're doing for others slash your family, your co-workers and whatnot versus taking care of yourself? To summarize, my question is, how do you keep the boundaries intact to make sure that your responsibilities for others is not intruding into your personal space and you are able to stick to nurturing your mental and physical health on a daily basis?
I can take that question because it's a favorite topic of mine. People are historically coming up from just similar to Gong. I think there's a very biased view in the Eastern culture, including in India, where mothers treat their own health and their own well-being secondary or even tertiary to everyone else. So this is probably like they start thinking about their own health maybe in their 60s or 50s, and everything has already become like really bad, to be honest. So one way I've approached this, I have two young girls as well. And from the very beginning, the way I've approached this is to kind of say that I need to teach my kids that their own health is equally important as mine and everyone else. So bringing along the family together on this, where this is my time to do yoga, or this is my time to go for a long walk, right? This would mean that if I'm going for a long walk, my husband has to maybe do the chores at that moment so that it's ready. So there's been things like that that we discuss at home collectively with my husband and the kids, so that the kids also know that as they grow up, this is part of their life. And my husband also understands like, hey, this is really needed, because he also finds something similar as well. And the nice thing about that is that after you've done that and you come back into the house and you actually feel very refreshed, because exercise gives you that kind of happiness that now you kind of spread this to the entire family, because now the family is feeling much better themselves. So always going back to Gong's point, and I think Soumya's point earlier, is that self-care is so important to the extent that you really do want to carve out a time for yourself and also bring your family along. I think where the rubber meets the road is that when you go away and you pretend that, okay, this is my me time, instead of saying that this is my time, but at the same time, this brings me this joy, and so we should all do this together and encourage the entire family to come along with you, is when you're going to get the best of both worlds.
Oh, very nicely put, Anita. Yes, I think that's probably the right way to do in the modern times. Perfect. Okay, let's move to the next question. And pretty common question these days. How do you manage stress during a busy or a challenging day? Any tips?
Thank you, Amitabh, for that question. So how do you manage stress in a busy or a challenging day? For me, every day is challenging when I have deliverables. So what I do is I have a standing desk. And so I start in the morning at 7 a.m., put on my standing desk, and I have a nice mat at the bottom. So I will keep on walking for all the meetings. So all the morning meetings, I have about 2 to 3 hours of meetings. I will continuously walk and I'll look at my steps and I'll say that, oh, okay, today I finished 6,000 steps. So in the middle of all the stress, I have something to be excited about. And even if I'm running to get coffee, running to get my breakfast, I would be like looking at my steps. And my family would be thinking, oh, this lady has started running around. But I don't care about what others think. But I feel if I keep walking and I keep increasing my steps, even in a stressful day, I feel something to be excited about. So that's why key thing. Thank you.
Perfect. Nice tip, Priya. Okay, the next one. Have you ever had to say no to protect your well-being? And how did it go? Sorry, do I need to repeat the question?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Have you ever said no to someone or to a particular situation to protect your well-being? And how did it go?
Thomas wants to answer that question. Or Soumya. Go ahead, Thomas. You have to remove this mask. Oh, go. You have one more question. You have one more question.
So apparently Thomas removed his mask ready to come and then I got in the way. Anyway, have I ever said no and how did it go? Actually, I have said no. I never used to say no before, but now I have said no a few times. I can think back to a time when I was stressed because my son was not having a very good time. And then at in Boston, so I was worried about that. And then another friend called me and said, "Hey, can you come and help me shop for colors?" She was painting her house over there, so she wanted me to come and help her. I wanted to do that because normally that's a fun thing to do, but I did say no. I mean, this I guess goes contrary to self-care, but I did say no to that. And I was glad I was able, because I was not in a mood to do that and I wouldn't have really helped her. I could have gone, but I don't think I was in the right mood for that. So I did say no to her and it was okay. Overall, I think it turned out better because maybe my bad mood rubbed off on her. So I did put myself first and try to nurture what I needed to do. I went for a walk, I listened to music, and it helped me calm down a little bit. And I didn't feel so bad after saying no. And she, picked her colors after that. So I think it's okay to say no sometimes.
Perfect. Thanks, Samya. What's a small daily habit that has made a big difference to your well-being? Thomas, you want to take this one?
Can you say that again?
Yeah. One small daily habit that has made a big difference to your overall well-being.
One small habit. I guess it would be listening to Calm for it ends up being about 30 minutes and I started doing this after I came back from my trip last fall because I was having a lot of trouble sleeping. So I've been so to kind of nurture myself and to sleep, I would do 2 of these 10-minute meditations. And then there's this gal who kind of does movement meditations. So that seemed to help. And it kind of gave me insights into my past and things that are kind of happening now and also into the future. And I guess in a separate note for the last question, I'm actually pretty bad at saying no. And it's coming up more and more where it's kind of affecting how I live. And so I will try and be more mindful of saying no in kind of a politically nice but a stern way. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Soumya, do you have time for another one, or we are
No, I think we're done because we have 2 evaluations. Thank you.
perfect? Back to you, Soumya.
Sure. Thank you, Amita, for those wonderful questions. And Thomas, we know what's the topic for your next speech. How to say no. Okay, I'm going to call upon Anita to evaluate Thomas' speech.
Hi, everyone, again. Great topic on nurturing yourself through improving the quality of the sleep. Thomas, you started with a really good question and also a very timely question around when everyone is planning to do their speeches, right? We have 2 more speeches next week, I hope. So thinking about how to think about sleep and how can we improve our quality of sleep. You've done your own. So I'll start with 3 things I really liked and maybe 1 or 2 things as suggestions. The first one is it's a very relatable topic and timeless. You can talk about this topic anytime, even twice a year, 3 times a year. People will want to hear this because it's a topic that is very hard for people to remember and forget at the same time. The other one is you have a sense of humor that I'm starting to see in your speeches. Like here, you start with a spoiler alert. So I would want you to like kind of dig into that a little bit more because your speeches can be much more interesting as you start adding more humor to this. You laid out 3. First is you have listened to a lot of these talks by Matt Walker. I'm a big fan of Matt Walker's work as well. His book, Why We Sleep, is an amazing book for anyone who's interested in a book recommendation for this weekend. So you took at 2 big folks that are studying about sleep and learning from them and kind of bringing that back into the topic today, but also bringing in a lot of personal stories to go with it, which was also extremely nice, very nicely done. So this connecting research, connecting science with your personal stories and bringing that content to as a speech is a very important skill. And I think you showed that today in the talk. So where can we improve? You had 3 main ideas. One around the stress, improving your surroundings, and use your sleep. Use your bed only to sleep. If you're not sleepy, just get off the bed, right? The 3 things. And the first one is the one you've concentrated most on. The second 2 were like bullet points. Maybe one suggestion would be that there's actually only two things. Your stress, which is the main thing that you want to talk about, and that the other 2 can be compressed into one idea, which is you sleep. If you're not sleepy, get off the bed, do something else. So it's actually 2 big ideas that you want to convey today. And can you make this into 2 big ideas and talk both of them at one after the other? The challenge we had was that in the first, when you talked about stress, you start to get a second part of the first part of the second part, right? There's a lot of those little things that were actually distracting you, but maybe you can call out, here are the 2 things, stress and optimizing sleep environment. And right, only the 2 things. And the sleep environment includes, if you're not sleepy and you're dreaming, just get off. Right. So have those as 2, talk about the stress as your main thing. And the second one is a secondary. That way your content will flow even more nicely. And it'll be fulling because I was looking forward to learning more about the 2 and 3 as well when you said it. So overall, great speech in terms of relatedness and the content and the research that's been done. Maybe a little bit more into getting into your humor side of yourself and a little bit more into like the actual firming up your content is going to help make this to the next level. Thank you.
I see that we're running close to our time for the reports from functionaries. So what I'm going to do is ask the timer if everyone qualified for best table topics and best speaker. Maria, did everybody qualify? Okay, so let's send in while the functionaries and the evaluations are going on, let's send in our votes to Amitabh for best table topics and best speaker. Meanwhile, Anita, okay. So meanwhile, I'm going to call, we'll do the evaluation at the very end. I'll just call on the R counter report from Alan.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So I think you guys did pretty well in not using any filler words. I think Gang, you didn't have any filler words in your table topics, and even in your joke in the beginning. Thomas, during your speech, you just had you used one R, and I think your table topics you had one other word. Priya, I think you were flawless. You didn't have any filler words in your table topics or your speech. Anita, I think your evaluation had no filler words, but there was one R you used during your table topics. Soumya, you had no filler words. Yep, that's it. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Alan. The next, oh, I think that's it. We don't have a grammarian. Yeah, I'm finishing up the functionary. I don't think we have any other, and the word counter we're going to be sending. So let's move on. We have time now for the second evaluation. What I want to do is first ask everybody, what is the good thing that you saw? What is one good thing that you heard from Priya's speech? Let's start with the good items. I will start and I will say, I love the quote from Martin Luther King. It was very nice, good introduction to your speech. Anyone else offer?
One thing, sorry. Yeah, one thing about Priya's speech about consensus driving, which is impressive to me, is Priya is able to repetitively emphasize on the key concept she's like focusing on. To me, I heard many times you talk about disagree but still commit without obstruction. So I think that repetition makes these like keywords like more rememberable, and people can take away from that. Yeah.
Next. Anyone else have good ideas that good things that Priya did?
I think I liked the disagree but commit, because in most realistic, most practical situations, you can never get a consensus at all. And the important thing as a leader is to kind of get to a place where there's a path forward and people are, even if they disagree, they commit. So how do you get to that? I think that the topic is extremely important, but I think the key mantra for everyone who is working in industry is to think that there's always going to be an element where we will disagree, but we will commit, right, for the greater good.
Okay, Amitabh or Alan, any other thoughts?
I think okay. I mean, I just liked the way Priya started the meeting with a question, and then she got everyone engaged, and the topic was very personable, and like we all go through these chaotic meetings every now and then, and so it is very good to understand like what the different aspects of the meeting are. So that's good. Back to you.
Okay, so let's move on to areas that Priya could improve. Any suggestions? I'll start. Amitabh, any suggestions?
I think the topic was a pretty good one. Probably a real example in terms of like how a meeting was chaotic, but one of the things the good things that Priya talked about, how that could have been injected into that meeting and made it a different way. That one example that would have been, I think, more relatable. But otherwise, yeah, pretty good topic and nicely put.
Great. Anita's wanting to get up, so come on.
One challenge I had listening in that I think could be improved was like going between a meeting that's happening at a very local scale to a government election that is too broad. And that kind of brings along other dimensions of thinking. So sticking to one meeting, one idea, and where you're bringing everyone and being in a very consultative mode with everyone and making a consensus and then making a decision. So I wouldn't even call it a consensus, but rather I would say consultative mode and bringing to commit and disagree and commit if needed. It's just keeping the story within that box would have enabled us to go deeper in it. Right now, it felt a little bit like there are multiple other ideas that are coming in and it was just not very focused.
Okay, I have one. I disagree with one of the things, but I still commit to the cause of consensus. The listen, vote, and notes thing that you mentioned. I think that's very difficult to implement, which means you have to take down notes for every prior meeting that the people did and how they voted. That is very hard to actually implement in practice, I think. So take it with a grain of salt. Yeah. And sorry. Anyone else? Any other ideas for improvement? Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for chiming in and offering your thoughts to help improve our speech. All right, so we have time. We have plenty of time now. Vote counter, do you have all the votes?
No, I don't. I do have votes for table topics, but I haven't seen a single vote for the real.
Let's take a minute then for speaker. Speaker between Priya and Thomas. Everyone send in your vote. No. Diplomatic. Okay. Yeah, I did. I sent it in. Yeah.
I think I have all the votes now. Padma is online, but I don't think she has sent in her votes, so it's fine. She's not feeling well. Okay, so for the speech, it's Thomas. And for the table topics, it's Gang.
Oh, nice.
Congratulations.
Very
Both.
nice. Wonderful table topics questions, Amitabh. Really made us think and tied the theme together. Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for voting and participating. You voted, and also there were 2 speakers, and then we had 2 votes today. And also everybody chimed in with their evaluation, so that was wonderful. Anything else that I have missed? We don't have grammarian, general evaluation. Anybody? No, does anyone else have any suggestions on how we can improve our meeting? General evaluated. Other than signing up for roles ahead of time, come.
I really loved that we are starting to get into the rhythm of giving talks. As I said before, like it's okay to take one of the table topic questions and build on that because you already have the crux. So take one of the questions today and then sign up for a table topics. That's like a speech. That's even if it is 4 to 6, that's fine. 5 to 7, 4 to 6 speeches, but you do have a crux. In terms of evaluation, I still think that it'll be very good. I allowed your impromptu evaluation. At the same time, I also think that we should definitely try and sign up for these roles because it helps us to creatively and think and intently think about how to write a speech slightly better. And it'll help in our own speech writing as well. Therefore, I would love for people to sign up for these roles as well.
Which brings us to the next thing. If the meeting is over, she can stop the recording and then sign up for next week's roles. Next week's
Absolutely.